Hey there, my fellow Korobots, and of course, my Hoyo Shield's hate watchers. Your favorite former Hoyo Shield, current Korobot, and Kitsune VTuber Moonstar is back with another deep dive video, except this one is something truly special, at least to me. You know how sometimes a game just hits different? Like it grabs you by the soul, shakes you a little, and then leaves you staring at the screen, speechless? Well, my friends, for me, that's Wuthering Waves. Especially its story from 2.0 up until 2.4. We don't talk about 1.0 story. It never existed. Also, fear not, as we're not just going to talk about the lore dumps or power scaling. Nope, that would be too boring. Today, we're going to talk about the feels, the moments that made me gasp, made me think, and honestly, made me appreciate storytelling in games even more. So get ready, because it's going to be a wild journey through some of the most impactful moments in Wuthering Waves, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty then, let's kick things off with Wuthering Waves 2.0, where we first step into the beautiful and magnificent, yet kind of unsettling city of Rinasita. Now, for the people that said Rinasita was not as dark of a story, and it was just bright sunshine and rainbows because of the mask on its face, maybe this video will make you realize and see beyond its mask. Now then, for me personally, this arc was a huge and powerful punch to the gut. In the best and worst case possible, it wasn't just a story, it was a mirror reflecting some really uncomfortable truths about blind faith and how easily power can corrupt, even in places you would expect it to be pure. Truths that I myself went through as someone who was very religious as a child and was set and expected to become a priest. Yeah. Can you imagine me as a priest? Oh my god. Anyway, it's because of that fact, this very arc was so hard for me to do, especially after seeing Phoebe and what you went through. Because of that, and especially because of that, I can fully empathize with her and her struggles. Because unlike other people, I was born with empathy, so I didn't have to learn it while I was an adult. Yeah, this quote is definitely not going to come back and bite me in the ass. Rinasita is basically run by the Order of the Deep, which may have started off with good intentions and wanting to help everyone, as most religion and religious institutions do. But you know how it goes. Give someone an inch of power and they'll get drunk on it and demand more, and then build a whole empire on it, always followed by using said power to control the masses in order to keep said power. The Order might have originally formed to give salvation and help to the people in need, no doubt about it, but in the end, it became this chilling example of how a religious institution that is given unchecked power can become something more terrifying than any harsh and cruel dictator. They twisted their own teachings, manipulated their followers, and even rewrote history to keep everyone in line. It's like they took the idea of fate and turned it into a weapon. And that, my friends, is a very terrifying thought, but more about this later on in the video. During the story of 2.0, we follow Carlotta, who is trying to make sense of it all, and the confused Phoebe. Oh, Phoebe. Her story, as cliché as this might sound, truly hit different for me. Coming from my own past experiences with religion, And well, certain religious figures and institutions, as I said earlier, and seeing firsthand what she had gone through, it just resonated very deeply with me. It was heartbreaking to watch her struggle with her faith and to see how the very thing that was supposed to bring her comfort and guidance could be used to control and hurt her and everyone around her, while being unable to console her, pat her on the head and tell her everything is going to be alright, and punch the living hell out of those idiots and that slimy Fenrico. Like, the hardest thing during this story was me holding back from punching my monitor when Fenrico and his cultist lackeys showed up on the screen, since the story really hammered home the idea that when fate becomes blind, when you stop asking questions, or you're not allowed to ask questions, that's when things go sideways. It's a powerful, powerful lesson that honestly a lot of people, especially on the internet today, really need to learn, especially people from certain platforms and following certain people. Question everything, folks. Do not let anyone tell you what to think without you thinking it through yourself, without looking up the words and evidence yourself and making up your own conclusions. Phoebe's journey was a stark emotional reminder of that. Okay then, if 2.0 was a gut punch, then 2.2 was a warm hug we all needed. I needed. This update, along with 2.4, are hands down my absolute favorite, and it's all thanks to one character, my beloved Cartethyia. Seriously, if you know, you know. This arc was all about the value of life, the incredible power of redemption, and the kind of self-sacrifice that just makes your heart ache in the best way possible. Let's first talk about my girl Cartethyia. Now, before anyone gets their panties in a twist and starts saying, but she's literally the creation of the villain who almost brought destruction to Renacita. Also, didn't you just say earlier that you hated people that misuse their power to control other people? Well, firstly, Cartethia's very existence, yes, her entire existence was indeed engineered by Leviathan at the suggestions of Imperator. I still don't think Imperator did the right thing there, but I don't really have all the facts to judge them either. Also, she was revealed as Fleur de Lis, the Blessed Maiden, and her birth was part of the grand and manipulative plan by Imperator, as I said earlier, to take down the Trenodian Leviathan. Basically, you're kind of right. She was indeed born into a destiny that wasn't her own. A destiny that she had no control over and made her a villain. But she was as much a victim of the control as everyone else. Here's the thing though, and it's the most beautiful thing. Despite all that, Cartethyia was never evil. Not even once. In fact, quite the opposite. She fought tooth and nail to defeat the Dark Tide and Leviathan, and when she failed, she prepared herself knowing that someday there will come someone strong enough to defeat her and the Trenodian as well. So yeah, she was never evil, and it would be completely unfair to judge her on something she never had control over, or evil deeds she never did. Her journey is an incredible testament to self-discovery and the iron will to break free from the chains of predetermined fate, which is what a lot of us sometimes wish we could do, don't we? It's a story that screams from the very rooftop that your destiny or heritage does not define who you are, and especially a story that tells that life is never a waste No matter what anyone might say, you should never ever throw your life away, even if your origins are tied to something dark, even if you're created for a purpose you didn't choose. Redemption is always, and I do mean always, possible. It's a very powerful and heartwarming message that completely flips the script on the idea of inherent evil and instead shines a spotlight on individual choices and actions. And that's the biggest reason I love her so much. Oh boy, that was a bit heavy there at the end, wasn't it? And we're only halfway done with this part of the story. In the second part, we have Cantarella, the matriarch of the Facilia family. Her story is simply a chef kiss when it comes to profound sacrifice and when it comes to not judging a book by its cover. If you recall, there's this pivotal moment in the story where Cantarella makes the ultimate choice. She gives up her second awakening power to the Sentinel, which created the opening needed for Frelderis to finally take down the Dark Tide. But wait, there's more. That wasn't the only time she sacrificed her power. She made that same sacrifice yet again later on in the story. Only this time she made it so it would be possible for Cartethyia to wield Tarnwin, totally didn't butcher that name, which made it so she could show up right at the perfect time to save our butt. It's indeed a heart-wrenching yet incredible powerful moment that just underscores the theme of sacrificing personal power for the greater good. Cantarella's actions reminds us that true heroism isn't always about gaining power, but sometimes it's about what you're willing to give up for the sake of everyone else. It's pure and unadulterated goodness. Even in her weakened state, she still fought to keep those pests out of our way, despite what her trailer and people initially thought about her being a villain or just another waifu for fanservice. This goes to show you again that you should never judge a book by its cover, but more about her in another video. Also, you can't even imagine how I felt when I saw Cartethyia vanish in our arms. At that point, I really shared in the rage the protagonist felt. Alright, now let's shift gears to something more happy and a lot more charming. Version 2.3. And oh boy, did this version bring us a character that just screams inspiration. Ciaccona! This update was all about courage and the sheer joy of living your life exactly as you want to, especially when it comes to speaking the truth. Ciaccona is a very free-spirited bard. She's basically the embodiment of all those ideals cranked up to 11. Her story is a very powerful anthem to the truth and the incredible guts it takes to actually sing it out loud. Ciaccona uses her music, her poetry, her very being to spread what she believes is right, even if that means getting labeled a heretic, or facing the angry glares of those in power. Or in current terms, if it means getting cancer on Twitter. You know that feeling when you see someone just owning who they are? Like they aren't afraid to be who they are, and they don't apologize for who they are either. That's Ciaccona. Just in case you're wondering, no, I am absolutely not talking about those so-called righteous and virtue signaling idiots. If anything, her story and her very being stands in complete opposite to those that will tell you how you should act, how you should feel, how you should think, or how you should talk, else they're going to ruin your life by launching false accusation and canceling you on Twitter. Ciaccona and her story is a living, breathing reminder that true freedom isn't just about doing whatever you want, it's about having the courage to stand by your convictions, to share the truth with the world, even if that makes you unpopular. Her journey is an absolute amazing and exhilarating celebration of authenticity and the transformative power of art to shake things up and inspire real change, which ironically, if you look into history, is what people from institutions like the Inquisition and other groups like that, up until even now, have tried to do, but true freedom always prevailed and always will. Her story and her very being feels like she's not just playing music, but more like she's playing the soundtrack to her own revolution led by everyone wishing for a better and more free world. And honestly, it's a very beautiful thing to witness. Now, you might be thinking I'm just blindly singing her praises, pun intended, but if it wasn't for her, we would have never unwrapped the Order's dark secrets that they tried to bury and rewrite history. See, I told you we were going to get back to this later. While it's true that Carlotta and Phoebe helped us start our digging, or let's call it song, of the Order's downfall, it's Ciaccona that helped us both in 2.0 when we were stuck, and now in 2.3 to put everything together and make sense of the poem and riddles we faced. Also, it's thanks to her that we can finally expose them and expose the truth of the pilgrimage sales that are not a sacred journey, but just simply banishment of the people that wised up to the Order's actions, and what happened to the people that first opposed them when they started going this dark path. You don't even know the satisfaction I felt when she went onto the plaza and exposed every single thing to the people there, and seeing their frustrated and angry faces, having their careful plans for years foiled. Now, before we move to 2.4, let me make one thing perfectly crystal clear. Yes, I am all about people should not be judged for what they enjoy doing or being, so long as they stay within the common sense line. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you're a lewd person. Most people will call you a pervert, but you own that, which is great. Be who you want to be, but don't do that in public places or with people that don't know you. And especially, for crying out loud, don't do that in front of kids. Bottom line is, let people be whoever or whatever they want, so long as they're not hurting anyone. If a person wants to call themselves a cat girl, let them be. Enjoy. Have fun being a cat girl. So long as they don't try to shove their beliefs upon me and demand that I treat them as a cat, or get angry for addressing them as a human person. Freedom And freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. It does not mean freedom of being held accountable for your actions, nor that you're allowed to attack someone for no reason and then cry victim when it happens the same to you. Okay, now that we got all that out of the way, we can arrive at version 2.4, another one of my absolute favorite stories. And for good reason too. This arc, man, just hits on a whole different level. This story takes us straight into the very heart of what it means to be human, exploring the messy yet beautiful and sometimes terrifying concept of agency, free will, and our complicated relationship with something bigger than ourselves. And it does all that while we are trying to fight a truly terrifying and formidable Ternodian. I said earlier around the start of the video that Renacita and now Septimond doesn't seem all that dark because of the mask of the carnival and all the things that seem bright and lively. Well, this story is where the mask falls off, and we see just how dark this entire part of the story actually is, and how terrifying and dangerous this Trinodian really is. Because if you stop and think about it, a violent enemy is easy to prepare for and predict what they're going to do, but a cunning and manipulative one is harder to prepare for. This chapter, for me at least, was incredibly powerful because we see the struggles of characters like Lupa and Myia. Lupa, who literally loses her name, her identity, and her very existence. Can you even imagine how would it feel to have no name, no purpose, or reason to exist? And then we have Myia, who, just like Cartethyia, her very being was created just to be consumed and taken over by the Trinodian. The difference between them, though, is that while Cartethyia had some support, her duty and her will to split herself, and later on us to guide her, Myia had no one, which led her to do the acts she did right before the finals. These might look like just some plot points, but a true great writer is one who can turn plot points into these raw and emotional moments that show us the ultimate stakes. The Trinodians aren't just these creepy and fascinating antagonists though, they are born from the fear, regrets, and hatred humans harbor, which manifests as destructive disasters, and their whole deal is feeding on collapsed human will. In a weird and very creepy way, they represent humanity's worst part and emotions. They are like this external force that tries to understand us, to dictate our future, to tell us what we should want and what we should do. But here's the kicker, folks, and it's the biggest irony you have seen yet. The truth is that they can. Why? Do they lack power? Hell no. They are far stronger, more cunning, and far more powerful than us in every aspect. So why can't they understand and control us? Well, the answer is far more simpler than you might even think. It's because of this beautiful yet frustrating paradox we call being a human, meaning not even we know exactly what we want 99.99% of the time. And the story brilliantly illustrates that. Our desires are this complex and more often than not a contradictory mess. We desire things, and when we finally obtain them, then we move on, desire even greater things. It's only when we're faced with a common goal, a shared purpose, or a common enemy that our desires finally align, but even then, we bicker or fight over who's best. This amazing and beautiful mess of human nature makes it utterly impossible for any external entity, whether it's a god, an AI, or even a terrifying Trenodian, to truly comprehend or control us. And that, my friends, is our superpower and our weakness at the same time. Hence why the paradox. Wait a second. Does that mean all the people canceling everyone and everyone that wants to see the world burn are Trenodians? I mean, there's no way a human could be so contradictory and blind, right? They're all evil creatures. The internet is controlled by evil and corrupted controlling people. Yeah, it all makes sense now. It's all coming together. Or maybe they're just lazy, bored, or miserable people that just want to see people ruined so they can feel better about themselves and think they're actually making a change instead of wasting time in front of a monitor like me now. The entire story also dives very deeply into the nature of fear, and it's not just the fear of death. Oh no, we've seen that Septimon people not only are not afraid of it, but embrace it as a thing of glory, even when it's not the case. It's the fear of failure, the crushing weight of disappointing those we care about, and the terrifying thought of losing everything we hold dear. But these are the fears that makes us humans, that pushed us where we are today, that drives us to be warriors in our own right, and that pushes us to make and take actions we normally would never take or do, even when our back is against the wall. And yet, despite all that, when we hit rock bottom, and when we are in those moments of our deepest despair, when all options are exhausted, where do we turn to? We turn to divinity. Whether it's God, Allah, Buddha, Shiva, your waifu, or even the cosmic spaghetti monster, we don't judge here. We look to a higher power for salvation. This in itself creates yet another fascinating paradox. Our drive and fight for free will, all while at the same time we almost desperately search and feel the need for something beyond ourselves. This just goes to show that humanity is a messy and contradictory thing, that just like light cannot exist without darkness, so too humanity cannot exist without searching for some sort of divinity. It's a wild ride, but it's our ride, and we can't get off it, sadly. Speaking of rides, this is where our ride stops for now. Our journey through the profound, emotional, and utterly captivating themes of Wuthering Waves story, where we explored every single theme, from the dangers of blind faith and the heartbreaking struggles of characters like Phoebe, to the incredible value of every life, the inspiring salvation of Cartethyia, the selfless sacrifices of Cantarella, the roaring courage of Ciaccona, and the beautiful, messy paradox of being human in the face of overwhelming odds. This game offers so much more than just stunning visuals and engaging combat. It offers an amazing story that makes you feel for the characters, challenges your perspectives, doesn't hold your hand, or insults the player intelligence by assuming they're dumb, and a story that ultimately celebrates the enduring, sometimes baffling, but always incredible spirit of humanity. Because, let's face it, unlike other gacha story, the story of Uwa is 90% of the time not about Rover, but about how the people of Solaris are trying to survive in a world ruled by Trenodians set on destroying the world. But what are your thoughts? What moments resonated with you the most? What characters made you tear up or cheer out loud? Or do you think I'm just overanalyzing and overthinking a simple story? Either way, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspectives, and as always, may your gacha pools be blessed.